Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, sponsored by Ad Victoriam Solutions, a Salesforce consulting partner. Before we get started, I would like to cover some housekeeping items to make this session as beneficial as possible for each of you. For technical support, dial the phone number listed on this slide. We suggest you write this number down in case you experience difficulty. All callers have been muted in order to keep our time together focused on content. Because of this, if you would like to ask a question of your presenter, enter the question into the question panel. Your questions will be answered by the presenter at the end of the presentation. Within 48 hours after the webinar, you will receive an email recording of the presentation. Thank you for joining our webinar today. I will now introduce you to our speaker, Jenny Chizuski, who will discuss the benefits of Salesforce Lightning, why companies are switching. Jenny Chizuski was challenged with helping her sales team increase their effectiveness. She turned to Salesforce. Salesforce's ease of use and flexibility enabled her to meet her goals and also sparked her desire to work within the Salesforce field. 8 years and 5 Salesforce certifications later, Jenny delivers transformative Salesforce solutions as Ad Victoriam's Director of Solution Delivery, so companies can successfully achieve their goals. We are very happy to have her here with us today. Without further delay, I welcome you, Jenny Chizuski.
Thanks, Linda. All right, so here's what we're going to go Thanks. Here's what we're going to go through today. So I'm going to go through why companies are switching to Lightning, what to consider before switching, and then I want to show you guys some productivity enhancers that our customers who have switched already seem to love. All right, so we'll go through the reasons to switch. All right, reason number 1, new functionality is being introduced primarily in Lightning. So there are a number of new features that you can only get if you switch to Lightning. Some examples of these are the Salesforce Path and Salesforce Favorites. Towards the end of this, I'm going to switch over and give you guys a little demo, and I'll show you guys exactly what those mean. Another reason is that Salesforce is focusing all of their continued development into Lightning. So bug fixes, future release enhancements, all of that's going to be Lightning first. And it is important to call out that they are starting to switch orgs out of Classic. So we have had some customers already getting notifications, letting them know that they're going to be switched. So I've heard people say before that there's no way they'll ever turn off Classic, but they really are making the moves towards that. So it's good to be prepared. Another good reason is for Salesforce mobile adoption. The Salesforce mobile experience is more like the Lightning experience. For example, the use of quick actions is not very common in Classic. It's very common in the mobile app, and it's very common in Lightning. So your users will have a more seamless experience depending on what device they're on. All right, and then the last thing, and probably the most fun thing for all of the admins on the line, is more flexibility with the user interface. So you can increase adoption by putting related record information and the relevant data that a user needs to see on one screen, helping them reduce clicks, which is always one of the key things to make users adopt. All right, so next I'm going to go through things to consider before you switch to Lightning. So the first thing here, Salesforce has made this really seamless and easy on you, and they've introduced what's called the Lightning Experience Readiness Assessment. So I'm going to flip over and show you guys how to run that, show you guys a sample report, and then we'll talk about what to do with the results. Okay, so here I am just in a Classic org here. What I'm going to do is go to Setup. They have made it very obvious for you with this highlight bar up here. So you can either click this link right here to check your readiness assessment, or if you've canceled out of this banner here in the top left corner at all times, you're going to see this Lightning Experience Migration Assistant. So if I click that, it's going to take me into my migration assistant, and you'll see the second step here is running your readiness assessment. So you'll just click this check readiness, button here, and Salesforce is going to run that readiness assessment and then email you the results. So I have a sample result right here for this org. So this is a pretty fresh org, so it doesn't have a ton of old features in it that might need to be migrated, but Salesforce does a really good job of walking you through here of the areas of your org that might need to be converted and what they recommend to do to transform them. All right, so if you flip back to our slides. All right, and what to do with those results. So I recommend taking the results from that Lightning Readiness Assessment and splitting them into 3 buckets. So you're going to end up having legacy functionality that you're probably ready to retire. A lot of times we see old installed packages or things that weren't really ever used that can be just kind of cleaned up and gotten rid of when you're migrating to Lightning. The second bucket would be key functionality that you have to include that must be there for your go live. And the third bucket would be functionality that you can wait on. So things that you can put into a phase 2, you don't need them right away, and you can take a little bit of time to figure out how to migrate that. All right, I'm just going to go into our next slide about your migration plan. So it's really key to have a migration plan for Lightning and not to just turn it on one day and terrify your users. So the first thing that we recommend is putting a roadmap together. So take the Lightning Readiness Assessment and those 3 buckets that you identified and start putting together a plan to map the legacy functionality to what is available in Salesforce. A few things to consider when you're doing that are customizations that you might have had in Classic that are now part of the base product in Lightning. I know a lot of orgs had Red Hot News and a few other applications installed to keep track of news for their accounts. And that's native functionality now in Lightning. So you can uninstall that app and just use what you have there. So you're going to want to align those key functionality areas that you called out to the new solution in Lightning. So for example, you may have had old custom buttons. I know admins love those button hacks. You're going to want to move those to quick actions. So it just takes a little bit of a thought process change of how to do it in Lightning, but most stuff is an easy change. So next you're going to want to put a plan and timeline together, and you're going to want to communicate it. So like I said, it's scary for a user to come in and just see Lightning right away. It is, everyone's resistant to change. So you just want to make sure that you communicate that plan well and people know when it's going to happen. And then always make sure that you're getting started in a sandbox. So you can get into the sandbox, play around with it, have some super users log in and provide you feedback before you put it into production. The next part of that migration plan to consider is if you're going to go big bang or phased approach. It really depends on the organization and the support staff you have and the number of users. Some people like to just get everybody on Lightning at once, and others like to have a few people start to use it early, build some excitement before they turn on everybody else. Whichever way you go, you just want to make sure that you communicate, like I said, and then provide training. It is a very different user experience, so people might take a few times of looking at the new way before they know how to work it. Okay, so all of that sounds easy enough, but when do you know to include a partner? So the first thing is if you're reading through that Lightning Readiness Assessment, you can't figure out how to align the old functionality to a new functionality. So a partner can come in and help you with that portion. The next thing is to consider the skill sets that you have on staff. A lot of the changes that you'll see in a Lightning Readiness Assessment have to do with custom code. And if you don't have a developer on staff, you may need to go to a partner for that. And then, of course, the last thing is whether or not you have the time to put the work in to get this done. So if you need somebody to come in and help facilitate this for you while you're working on other things, that's a great opportunity to bring a partner in as well. Okay. So next we have some tips for user adoption. So this is really just your chance to make it fun and get people excited about Lightning. So the first thing we recommend is refreshing Salesforce engagement. So take this as a chance to incorporate some requests that users have had for things they want to see in Salesforce or to clean stuff up. It's really a chance to revamp your Salesforce org altogether. We also see it really successful when people host a party, bringing cookies with lightning icons on them and stuff like that. Anything to make it a little bit more fun. You're also going to want to establish a governance committee. We always recommend having this for Salesforce, but by the time you're moving to Lightning, it's a really good idea to have it because those people can help you collect feedback from end users and then also help promote that new Lightning user interface. Next is incentivizing users. That can either be by using some gamification, maybe put some dashboards together on who's using Lightning now, or it can be incentivizing them with features. So like I mentioned, there are a lot of features in Lightning that are not in Classic. So that also helps incentivize people to move over so that they can use some of those new items. And then the last thing is just to always promise to continue innovating. So monitor how people are using it, collect feedback, and make adjustments as people provide that feedback so that you can start with a phase 1 and then quickly come back with a phase 2 that they'll enjoy. And that governance committee that you establish can help you with that monitoring and adjustment making. Okay, so now for the more fun stuff. I'm going to show you guys some of the things that we love to do in Lightning when we're doing a migration or when we're just setting up a brand new org. So I'm going to take you guys through the home page. And when I talk about the home page, this will also be app pages of some fun things that you can do now in Lightning here. And then I will also take you guys through records in Salesforce. Those also get more fun in Lightning. So I'm going to show you guys some of the features we enjoy there. Let me switch over to my org real quick. All right, so we just switched our same org over from Classic into Lightning. So the first thing that I want to point out is I'm able to incorporate more branding into Lightning experience. So I made this background one of the blue colors that I enjoy, and I was able to put a different logo here in the top and incorporate a fun app name. So this really helps make Salesforce feel like your company's tool because you can incorporate the branding guidelines from your company into Salesforce. So we landed here on a Lightning homepage. You can see this is very different from a Classic homepage, and I want to walk you guys through some of the components that we have here. So when I say component, I mean these different little sections of the page. And that's just a new kind of Lightning term that you'll hear a lot. So the first thing we have here in the top left corner is a quarterly performance dashboard. So this doesn't always apply to all users, but if it's a sales user, they tend to love this. And it's comparing their opportunities and system to a goal that they set out. So if I want to put a goal in here, I then have my goal line and I can track how I'm doing against my opportunities. So like I said, this is great for sales users, but it's important to point out that that might not apply and you can remove it and instead incorporate other report charts that might be more useful. So I also built an opportunities by month report that I went ahead and pulled into this homepage as well. So you can pull any report chart or dashboard into your homepage. So then here in the top right corner is a rich text area. So this is really helpful for communication that you might have with your team. If you want to send them notes of what's going on or reminders of how to do things in Lightning, you can put this rich text component on the home page and then all throughout the application as well. One thing that we like to do is include hyperlinks here. So if you've put some training documentation together, it's a good way to do that. Let me jump back here. All right. The next component is items to approve. So in Salesforce Classic, you're able to have the items pending approval, and they've copied that over to Lightning and made it a little bit better to incorporate here. You also have your Salesforce Assistant. So this is one of those items that I mentioned is not available in Classic and is very popular once you switch over to Lightning. So the Salesforce Assistant is going to go through all of the records in your Salesforce org and tell you what it thinks you need to work on. So I have a number of opportunities in here that I haven't put activity on in 30 days. So it's going to remind me that I need to go do that, and I can quickly jump from here to that opportunity, do my follow-up call, and make sure that I'm knocking out and following up with the sales that I'm working on. It also pulls in lead information to here as well. So next we have your recent records. This is going to pull the top 5 records that you've accessed here onto the home page. These are also available from anywhere in Salesforce if I click into the search bar. A lot of people, when they move from Classic to Lightning, really miss having this there in that left-hand sidebar, but it's just a really quick training exercise to teach them that it's going to be here in Global Search, or you can incorporate this recent records into other pages so that they can quickly get to this component as well. So if I scroll down a bit more, here on the bottom half, we have a few other things for tracking your tasks and events. So here I can see all of the tasks that I have today. I can also switch to a few different views if I want to see what I have overdue or what I've delegated. And then I also have my events here as well. Next, I've got my key deals component. So this is, again, something that's available in Lightning and not Classic. And it's going through and finding your most profitable opportunities so that it pulls them up here to make sure that you're keeping track of them. And then the last thing I wanted to show you guys here in this bottom right corner, you'll see it's powered by 7 Summits. Just wanted to show how the App Exchange is also a place where you can pull components into your Lightning environment. So you're not stuck to just these out-of-the-box ones from Salesforce. You can also go see what other people have built. So I was able to find one that that shares videos that are on YouTube or Vimeo. So I just put in a video link here, and then that's another really good way that you can make sure that your users have the training that they need right here in the application. Okay. So those are my homepage components. I did want to show you guys a few other fun things that come with Lightning here in the tabs. So the first one is our Chatter tab. Chatter's just gotten a little bit of a facelift here, makes it a little bit easier to get to all of your history. So when I log into Salesforce, I typically go jump over to my Chatter tab and see what's going on in the company. And then this task tab is hugely popular. The tasks in Salesforce used to always seem like they got lost. They were maybe on a home page or on a record, but I always hear about people having hundreds of tasks out there that are open that need to be cleaned up. Now you have a task tab, so your users can go work directly from here and see what they have out there. And you can create other list views for them. So you're not stuck on the traditional list views that come with Salesforce. You can customize these and tailor them to the users. And they have a few different views as well. So I'm looking at a split view. You can also look at the tasks in this Kanban view. The Kanban view is also very popular in Lightning because people can see all of their records here, kind of in where they are in their process, and they can easily update them by just dragging and dropping. Okay, so next I'm going to go into a record and show you guys some of those record updates that we really like. So I'm going to go to my leads tab first. So I'm just going to pull up a lead that I have in the system. Here for Mark Benioff would be pretty great if I could get that lead. So one of the features I was mentioning that's very popular in Lightning is this path functionality. So I've heard some people call it the pizza tracker experience, where you can see exactly where something is in its life cycle. I think it's very useful on sales-related items, so you can see kind of where it is in the pipeline. So I've set up a path here for the lead that's just going to go based on my lead status. And you'll see here, based on my path and where I am in the path, I have key fields and some guidance for success. So these are easily customizable. So you can have your sales manager maybe start working up some of these sales tips that you can then incorporate into Salesforce. So it's just an added way to make the user experience better and provide training to your users. So as I click through these different stages, you can see it's moving which key fields I have and moving my guidance for success along as well. And then I can just quickly mark it to current as I go through as well. There we go, successfully changed. And if I get tired of it, I can hide all of that as well. Okay. So one of the really fun things that you now have on Lightning record pages are all of this different flexibility on where you can provide information. So something that we do on almost every record is this tab section. So you can have your details here on one. You can click over easily and see your activity timeline and click over and see news. So it's just a good way to prioritize the information on the screen so you're not overwhelming them with too much at once. They don't have to scroll too much. They can easily click around to get to the data that they need. On this activity timeline, I did want to point out that this is much better than Salesforce Classic, where they might have had the activity history and then the new activity section. That was always something very hard to train on. But now Salesforce has put it in this timeline view so that you can see your past activities in order, and then you can also see your open activities here in this next step section. Last thing I want to point out here is this news feature. So this is another feature that's now available with Lightning. Like I mentioned, a lot of people have installed apps in the past to be able to have similar functionality to this, but Salesforce offers it to you on leads, accounts, contacts, and you can even put it on your home page. And it's going to find relevant news information based on either the record that I'm on, or if you put it on the home page based on records that you've looked at recently. Okay. Last thing I want to point out here is the merge functionality. So I'm sure if there are admins in the audience who have had to do data cleanup, you know how painful it is to have to go to the tab, search for your duplicate, and then go through that experience. But Salesforce has made it super easy on you and on your end users because it's going to tell you right there on the lead if you have a duplicate. So it thinks I found one. It found one based on my lead matching rules. I'm going to view that duplicate, and then directly from here, I can go ahead and merge those together. All right, so now I'm keeping my data clean as well. I'm going to jump over to opportunities and just show you guys a little bit more on the related record, or sorry, on the record pages. I'm going to jump into my opportunity here, and I want to point out this related list quick links section. A lot of people in Classic got very used to using that. In Classic, this would have been that section at the top of your record page that just has a quick hyperlink. They've enabled that in Lightning as well. So you have that feature still. Again, you have your tabs, but I wanted to point out here now that I can add custom tabs as well. So you're not just stuck to the ones that Salesforce recommends to you. You can add other ones in here. So I used a custom tab, and then I put in another rich text area. So another way that you can put in training or just general information that you might need to provide to your users. The other thing I want to point out here is that you can prioritize your related list as well. So the related list used to always just be the full bottom of your record page, and now I can put them kind of anywhere I want. So here on the related tab, I have everything that is a related list for my opportunity, but I've also prioritized the product related list because I really want them to see that front and center. So I'm able to put just that one related list over here on the side. The next thing here is, this is called a related record component, and we've started using this a lot. In the past, people would create formula fields to pull data in from, maybe the account or a case or something like that. And now Salesforce has made it really easy because you can just have this related record component and show fields and even allow them to be updated from directly here on the opportunity. All right, so a few more Lightning features to show off here that I mentioned earlier. One of the Lightning features that is really popular is this favorites functionality here. So pretty much anything in Salesforce I can mark as a favorite. So I could mark this opportunity as a favorite. if it's something that I access a lot. We typically see it used for reports and dashboards, but it makes it really easy for your users to keep track of the data that they really need to get to. So I favorited a report. So when I log into Salesforce, I can just really quickly jump to my favorite areas. The other thing I want to point out is the calendar tab. So calendars were available in Classic, but they weren't always used very well, and it wasn't the best user interface. That has gotten a facelift in Lightning as well. And the cool thing is that you can create these calendars now not only based on events, but on any record in Salesforce that has a date field. So you can create custom calendars for any record in Salesforce that you'd like. Okay, so I think that rounds out all of the things that I wanted to show you guys in Salesforce. I'm just going to jump back into my slides for a minute. All right. So just to summarize really quickly for you, these were the records that we were just going through in Salesforce. So the fun productivity things, which kind of rounds out our webinar, and I'll pass back to Linda for questions.
Thank you, Jenny. That was great information. We appreciate your time. To the audience, please feel free to send in your questions through the questions panel, and we'll get to as many as we can. We have a few great questions here from our audience. You may also send your questions to the email addresses noted on this slide. Jenny, our first question from Jamie is, does everyone in your organization need to switch to Lightning, or can some switch and not others? What do you suggest?
Yeah, so you can do a phased approach. So you can assign whether or not they have access to Lightning based on permission sets. You can also eventually start taking away their ability to switch to Classic. So it's really dependent on your organization and your end users, but we do recommend eventually taking away their ability to get to Classic. So once everybody's moved over and comfortable, they have all the functionality they love, I would go ahead and start turning off Classic for your users.
Okay, great. Another question from Brian, who asked, can you share some best practices for Lightning pages?
Sure. I can definitely talk to it, but it's probably even better to see it. We get this a lot, and it's a debate that we have internally a lot as well. The Lightning record pages, it's easy to get carried away and excited with all of the flexibility that you have, but you want to keep your end users in mind. And so you want to start having similarities across the objects. So I would always keep my tabs in the same order. I would always have the same default tab for when they first land on a record. And then the other thing is just to try to keep it clean. It's really exciting to put 3 columns of data and dashboards and everything on the page, but you want to keep in mind that that may be a little bit too much sometimes. So try to keep it clean and streamlined and consistent across your objects.
Great. Okay, and another question, the last question we'll take because we have run out of time, is from Tom. In your experience, how long does it take to implement Lightning?
That's a really good question, and again, kind of depends on your end users and if you're going to do a big bang approach or phased approach. I would say you want to factor in at least 2 months, though, to make sure that you've updated it in your sandbox, you've had a few people log in and test it, and then to make sure that you have time to get it properly rolled out and trained.
Okay, great. Okay, that looks to be all the time we have for today. You, the audience, will receive a follow-up email within 48 hours with a recording of today's webinar. On behalf of Ad Victoriam Solutions and our presenter, Jenny Chizewski, we thank you for joining our webinar and have a great day.